All right, let's get this thing going. So we got a few people in here. The Threadcast is posted. Um, I will get all the links prepared. Sure, Eric is getting some links prepared as well. Um, so our guest today is Baloney Bones, and uh, we will be talking everything from THORChain 101 to the cross-chain DEX space in general, some new projects that they're working on, and a lot of exciting stuff. So, Baloney, how are you doing?
I'm alive. I'm here. I'm gonna do my best to not yawn. I realize I sound like the dying troll in Lord of the Rings when I yawn, so I'm gonna try to spare you guys that. But yeah, just been working a lot. So
Awesome.
kicking butt and happy to be here, man. Thanks for you guys bringing me to talk with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. I've been excited to talk to you. Obviously, I've been, a pretty avid watcher of what you've been doing with THORChain University over the years. And, as someone who's been in THORChain for quite a while, definitely really excited for this. So let's just roll right into, how you got into, I typically like to ask people, how you got into crypto originally, what kind of drew you into the space and how long ago was it?
Sure, man. So it was in 2020. My brother tried to get me into crypto back in 2017, and I probably should have listened, but we lived on opposite sides of the country, and it was difficult to understand one another where he was coming from. So eventually, he moved back to the East Coast and he started talking to me at this time. I've been a career teacher, educator all over the world, and at the time I was teaching high school junior year English, philosophy, and religion, and I was really enjoying it, man. But the salary was not enough to pay off the grad loans I had. So he came back, and I was, just sharing my woes of being a poor teacher. And he was he was introducing me to THORChain and pretty much telling me like what gap it filled at or what gap it was going to fill as it was being, this was still early days of single chain on BEP2 THORChain pretty much. And I the way it was described to me, it seemed like a game changer. So I did my research, but it pretty much just jumped in. And I realized early on, and this was probably mid 2020, maybe August, and I realized that it was a really complicated. Hold on one second. I think I'm echoing. So I realized it was a pretty complicated design, and not a lot of people knew how to navigate the liquidity pools, and all of the new terminology that came with AMMs. Um, if they weren't already familiar with Uniswap, so I pretty much kind of experimented myself with what was going on in regards to the mechanics of how it actually worked, how the swaps worked, and everything, how the pools worked, and realized that there wasn't much education on it. So I kind of took it upon myself. I asked around, and it was encouraged that I start something. So ended up starting a tiny Discord. I've said this before. I thought 7 people were going to join, but 20,000 people joined in like the first 4 months. So it was definitely a needed thing to have happen with THORChain, and it was kind of life changing for me because while I was a teacher at the time, it started taking up more more and more time while I was teaching, and I realized I had to go full-time crypto to really dedicate myself to doing what was needed for the THORChain community. And pretty much the rest is history. Been doing it for over 3 years now. And yeah, and we also help Maya do the same thing. So I mean, early on, it stayed educating, just shifted from, teaching kids to teaching crypto folks. So that's the long and short of it, I guess.
Yeah, I love that you came from kind of a traditional education background. I think that's really, really cool. You kind of merged, the two things together.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and like, I mean, there's a lot of similarities to how to deliver information. So like, I in and a lot of educators that I've been on the team have come and gone. They all really kind of get into the program of this is how you educate, like empathetic and education. You're patient, you're tolerant, you're going to answer the same question 100 times. So yeah, it really, you really got to find the right people to help with this kind of thing. And fortunately, THORChain has a great supportive cast of people that are in the space.
yeah, since I got into THORChain, back in those early days as well, just really have always enjoyed the community, and people are extremely patient and helpful when you have questions because, even as someone who did have a lot of experience with, Uniswap and all these different protocols, THORChain, especially when it first came out and still to this day, is something that is so unique that,
Yeah,
just you could be in this space for 8 years and then come across THORChain and still get easily confused by it.
dude,
Um,
100%.
yeah, yeah. And I'm actually very curious to hear your experience, learning it yourself. Let's kind of dig in and start there before we start getting into how you started teaching other people. I'm also, and I kind of have the feeling that you have a similar personality, that teaching is a great way of learning yourself. So is that kind of how you initially got into THORChain and started learning about it is by just kind of diving in and then starting to teach?
Absolutely, man. Like I didn't have any background in any of the definitions, the terminology. I did not know what Uniswap was. I did not know. I really didn't even know much about Ethereum at all, other than that, I had to learn everything as I was going on. And so pretty much like the liquidity pools, I had to, and like really I guess I learned by doing. So the way to really understand, like, is Rune going to be a really worthwhile investment, and why, so um that's kind of like where I started with, and just like entering into pools and monitoring how they interacted with the other asset, because at this time it was just dual liquidity providing. So I mean, that, like, and just reading everything I possibly could that did exist already. And I gotta say that there were two particular accounts back then that were super helpful. Like it was Bitcoin Sage, who now is with Delphi Digital, who's still big THORChain supporter, and Mihal Brains, who became Mihal. And those two were kind of like the Socrates and the Plato of my education, um, for THORChain learning, and what all the definitions were, what the terminology was, and like basically creating my own glossary of this one particular like neighborhood that really wasn't a neighborhood yet. It was just one thing. So yeah, it was definitely learning by doing, and constantly doing, and sharing screenshots of oh, this pool, the price of these two assets changed by this much ratio, and this is what happened. This is the outcome of this amount of time. And really, like, that's kind of the way that I started teaching was that like basically like if you want a particular outcome, this is what you would do, you know. So and back then it was simple enough to be able to do that. A lot of things have changed, but uh at the beginning it was pretty straightforward. And I mean straightforward in the sense that you were dealing with like, yeah, calculus so, or something like that. So it was and you know, again, like I'm a humanities guy, so there was a very steep learning curve of getting acquainted with numbers. And yeah, so it was definitely not. The one thing that made it much more enjoyable was that it was all really interesting. I had never understood a financial technology that like create like generated yield that actually came from something, rather than just payouts, you know. So I mean the closest thing that I had experienced up until that time was like a, you know, high interest savings account. I was pretty young, you know, young when this started. So like uh my I wasn't dealing with like futures trading or options trading or anything like that. So it was all very new to me. And I got to say, like, I'm happy that it was kind of like, I don't know if you guys are a fan. Might be an off the wall analogy, but Jack Bruce, the bassist for Cream, he was classically trained in cello. He was like destined to be the second cellist for the Scottish Symphony, and he wanted to do rock and roll. And he said he had to unlearn all of his classical training in order to be what he wanted to be. So I feel kind of fortunate in the sense that I didn't know anything prior to THORChain.
Yeah, you know, I think coming into it with a fresh lens is definitely interesting. And, you know, one thing that I've kind of learned, you know, throughout the history of THORChain and how it's evolved is that, you know, as soon as you learn how something works, you find out that there's like 17 different layers to it and all these different variables that you can come to understand and dive deeper on. How has, you know, as your learning and teaching has evolved with the protocol, you know, how has the protocol changing and evolving, you know, affected the way that you teach people? Because, you know, obviously starting from those early, you know, single chain days and then the
Yeah.
multi-chain chaos net and then now to production, how
Yeah.
has that evolution kind of impacted the way that you teach people?
Dude, one is like you can't take a day off. There's something new. There's literally something new every single few hours, man. So like what I realized is that I could not do this. I couldn't teach about this if I didn't have a team to like monitor updates. And you know, uh, people sleep at different times of the day. So you know, I'm really grateful to have a team that's, you know, based all over the world. So if I'm asleep and I wake up to something, my team member will, you know, have posted in our team server that this is happening or that this update is happening. And you know, the devs of you know, the updates are much more frequent. They're structured, they're funneled in a way that I can find them easily and that other members of my team can find them and then relate this information. So I mean, dude, it's not easy, especially when we're trying to make this learning program go off, that we need to make sure that everything is constantly updated all the time. So that's it's definitely a challenge, but it's a good challenge to have for us and for the network itself. But it's something that it requires constant maintenance and vigilance to be able to relay truthful information at all times. So yeah, basically having a very active, motivated, responsible team is required for sure.
Yeah, and you know, kind of pulling on that thread a little bit more, you know, what has been kind of the main goal of THORChain University, and I know that obviously, the overarching is to educate people about THORChain, but within that, what has been kind of the main, goal or focus? Like, are you trying to teach people more about, LPing? Like, is your goal to get them to become, first class citizens, as has always been talked about,
Sure, sure,
and
sure.
provide liquidity, or are there other goals that are kind of sub goals to your overarching mission of just educating the world about THORChain?
I think when we rebranded to THORChain, because we used to be LP University, and that was us for a long time, and it worked until it became 1/6, 1/5, or 1/6 of the entire kind of program. So we had to rebrand, and essentially now, our Discord server is set up very, I guess, idiot proof in a way where we have our THORChain mechanics, our design section where there's links, there's write ups. And our Medium article is really helpful for learning the long form reads for how THORChain works. We have a series called Under the Hood, that where you can learn about how it actually all works together. And the incredible thing is it does all work together, and each particular feature enhances on each other feature, which I find incredible. But at the same time, THORChain University also is very keen to help people figure out like risk profile for themselves. There's so many features available for any particular user, and based on your risk profile or your interests or your financial goals, there are options to choose from. And so what we try to do is basically lay out your buffet, your financial buffet in a way, like where these, like, say for instance, you're a really low risk person, but you want to earn yield on something that's not going to have any rune exposure, then you would go to savers, and we provide the options, the avenues that you can do that. And also, like, here's the risk profile for that. So again, like, we're pretty much, I would say, we have the archive of the design of THORChain available at the ready whenever you need. And again, like, this is always because of new features. There are different evolutions and iterations to the design, to how the engine changes over time. But at the same time, we're just as interested in promoting the features, teaching about the features, and which one works for which particular user, kind of matching financial technology to a particular risk profile. So it's kind of moving in that direction, and that's why we rebranded, because there's so much at this point to talk about, and teach users how the features work, how the financial technologies, each particular one is separate, individual, and yet they all work together, and we try to teach how they do that.
Yeah, something I really, and I've been an avid reader of the stuff you guys put out, over the years,
Oh,
and
thanks, man.
something, yeah, of course. I mean, you guys, and something I really love about the way you guys, talk about THORChain is that you can be both kind of like really deep into the weeds, and then really talk about things at a macro level,
Mm.
and whether or not you're talking about a big concept or a more in the weeds concept. The blog posts are relatively short, they're kind of like easily digestible, and then they kind of link you out to learn more about the protocol.
Hmm.
So if we take a little bit of a step back,
Sure.
let's say that you're talking to someone coming from the Bitcoin space, because I think that tends to be where THORChain is kind of focused on getting
Yeah.
people migrated over, because it's just, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, obviously, but one of the big ones is that I think THORChain ideals really line up with Bitcoiner ideals. So let's say that you're talking to someone who's very familiar with Bitcoin, and that's kind of all they enjoy, and loosely throw around the term maxi, that they just love Bitcoin. They love the decentralization of it. You know, where would you point them first? What do you get them kind of interested in to go down the rabbit hole when it comes to THORChain?
I'm trying to think about what we actually what article I sent over to what was his name, Dot Kruger, because he was doing good work for the lending for Bitcoin, quote unquote maxis. Again, like, you know, I feel like I wouldn't point them to one particular option, like one, this is what you want to do, because that's very isolating and like exclusionary. Um, Again, like I don't know, to each his own. And I feel like I see Bitcoin maxis, and I get it. I understand. But again, like that doesn't pinhole every single one of them having the same interest in, you know, like we've all seen Celsius. You know, we've all seen all of those guys just completely shit the bed. Sorry for the language, but on earning yield. So like if that stuff didn't happen, I would suggest the savers, man. Like you want low risk. If you're a Bitcoin maxi, you want to hold your Bitcoin and you want it to go up in price over the years. And if you earn yield on it, great. If you don't, so what? You own Bitcoin, and that's awesome. So it's difficult to point anyone in a particular direction, but to provide options. There's savers, you know, it's not the sexiest, but it does work. And if one is to be open-minded enough to read and learn about the mechanisms behind savers, and how synthetic assets are used, that's where I would point, just because it's super low risk. And it's the closest, I would say, to keeping your Bitcoin as safe as possible, you know, and you don't have any other exposure to Rune or anything like that. And, you know, that's probably not something that somebody Bitcoin would want, maybe. But again, like at the same time, you know, there's other options as well. So I don't know. I would go savers, but again, like I feel like I'm an old man sometimes. So you know, I don't like to push someone beyond where they want to be. I like to meet students where they're at. So that's probably where I would start. And, you know, and then we can branch out further. Again, I always go, I always think of my former students, and it's best to meet them where they are. So that's I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, you did. And you know, one thing I've always liked about savers and the way it's kind of set up is, like you mentioned, you know, high yield savings accounts earlier when you were just talking about your general financial journey, and that's how I've kind of viewed them since the beginning. Is like you can, you know, in the real world, like you can have cash and you can store it under your mattress, and if that makes you sleep better at night, then so be it.
Totally.
Yeah. And some people, you know, they don't want their cash just sitting under the mattress. They want it sitting, you know, in a bank and paying them, you know, whatever, 3 to 5% a year.
And the analogy works. It's easy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same thing with your Bitcoin. Like you can put it in your ledger and, you know, put that ledger under your pillow and sleep really well at night, knowing that your Bitcoin's safe, you know, in your own hands, and you're solely responsible for it. Or you can, you know, take a little bit of counterparty risk. And if you trust the, you know, quote unquote bank, which in this case would be THORChain, you know, you put it in the protocol and you earn a few percent a year. That's, yeah. And that's how you proceed.
The great thing about THORChain is that, like, it solves the solvency issue, the verifiability of it. Like you at any point in time, you can go to see what is there, you know, as opposed to, let's say, Celsius, for instance, which also, you know, high yield interested accounts or whatever. you can see your asset. It exists on the blockchain, so that helps a lot. It's, in grad school, I worked at a fine dining restaurant and the food was delicious, and pretty much the food sold itself. You didn't have to like talk it up. So that's another thing that is really easy about teaching THORChain, is that the features sell themselves, in that it's everything you want is available to you. Like if you want to see the solvency, like checking your solvency, you can do that. And we can teach you how. It's if you couldn't do that, that'd be a problem. So, like it would be a problem selling that, they're selling that feature. So I think that's another thing that really helps THORChain, is that it's all there on the blockchain and you can see it. So that also would be, I think, incredibly helpful to Bitcoiner, helping them to sleep at night if they were trying to earn yield.
Yeah, and when I see counter arguments, whether it's on crypto Twitter or elsewhere, against using savers, or obviously the big one that has kind of made the headlines lately that a lot of people are talking about is, putting it in and doing the lending.
Yeah.
For example, putting in, say, 10 Bitcoin and then borrowing like 350K
Yeah.
from the protocol. A big argument against that I see is, well, how do I know that this is not just one of those other protocols, like Terra, Luna, and, Celsius, where it's just going to blow up?
Yep.
And, what you're talking about with solvency and verifiability, you have the nodes that are over bonding, and you can see everything happening on chain, that the cash is all there, so to speak. And how would you kind of explain that to somebody who says, well, I just can't sit here and trust the protocol?
Well, dude, it's this is the woe of a teacher whose students don't do their homework. You can tell who hasn't read the book. Like if you ask a question and they have not read, then you can ask a simple question, and if they didn't read the Medium article we wrote, then they're not going to believe it or understand it, or even give it the time of day. The craziest thing about it all is we've written everything that that there needs to be written as of yet, about the THORChain mechanisms. So it's essentially, if you want to know, then it's there. If you can't be bothered to read a 4-minute article, then the yield won't be yours because you don't want to do it, which is completely fine. It's your prerogative to not want to read. But this is what keeps teachers up at night, is why doesn't anybody want to read? So that's it. It's entirely up to the person, of who they are and what their interests are and how open they are to learning something new. That's part of the game, man. It's part of being open to new things and bettering your life. Improving your livelihood. So I guess it really comes down to, are you willing to open and click on the link that we're going to give you when you respond or give a rebuttal that this doesn't work, and then we send a particular article we've written on Medium that shows you that it does, proven, with mathematics, and also, kind of elementary analogies to help you understand those mathematics. If you don't want to do that, then that's your call, man. So I don't know. If you want to read. If you don't, then you don't get the money.
Right. And it's, it is like, teaching students, and, I do really see that translating, that, like, if you have a student that's just not willing to, have any level of open-mindedness and read the materials, then it's pretty hard to get through to them.
It is
Um,
indeed.
and I think the beauty of THORChain as a product, and you were kind of saying this earlier, is that, a great product sells itself, and THORChain's the very fact that THORChain is, alive today and, continuing to put out, innovation, and also, just every single day that another block turns, and, savers are earning their interest, LPs are growing, trading volume is happening. Every single day that goes by, it's just continuing to sell itself, in that, if you want to earn yield, you see other people earning yield. And, people on X are making posts talking about how their LPs are, earning money, and, they're putting their Bitcoin to work, and it's not wrapped Bitcoin in a lending vault. It's actual Bitcoin, which, as someone who's used MakerDAO for, I don't even know how many years, 6, 7 years since it's been around, the day that lending came out, I was like so excited. I was like, okay, I can finally, sleep well at night knowing that I don't have wrapped Bitcoin exposure, hanging over my head.
Yeah. And another thing that I want to mention is also another testament to, I guess, the promise and success of THORChain and Maya as well. We get to Maya too, but just like it kind of reminds me, I've been thinking a lot about this recently, and because we've been making this learning program that is involving all of the ecosystem projects, it's like the fact that the neighborhood is growing so rapidly, and all of these projects are being built around it and offering these things, and not only like surviving, they're thriving. Like the prosperity in the ecosystem is really, really, I don't know, it's really exciting. All of the front ends, all of the wallets, all of the block explorers are, and a lot of people are doing this like because they want to help. I don't know about all the other ecosystems, but it's really incredible to see that like people are like kind of lifting buildings together, like an old Wild West town. Is like the buildings are just popping up, and they're not like they're doing really well, and it's like the work ethic is strong, and so like I think that just lends itself to that THORChain is really grounded. It's really like it has strong roots, and that it can support multiple projects, like numbering almost maybe in the 40s now. So I mean, I've talked to all of them, and I'm pretty sure we're in the 40s at this point in regards to projects that are integrated or built on, all of this stuff. So that's just another thing. But yeah, I mean, like it's all really exciting, and it works, man. All you got, like, I don't know. I'm really, really grateful to my brother for this being like the place I was injected into. Yeah.
It seems like you're super passionate about, not only the education part, obviously being that's your background, but the THORChain, economics and features as well. And, I think the biggest feature, and like I was saying earlier, that's been getting all the headlines and everyone's kind of focused on, is lending. So I definitely want to pick your brain a little bit. How do you feel about lending, in general? How do you feel about how it's doing today? I'm looking at the caps right now, and it's 112% full. So obviously, there's a lot of demand for lending, and there's an obvious, cap on it, as it's still a pretty early feature in its life cycle. So how do you feel about it in general, and how do you feel about, the discussions that are going on around lending?
I think it's fascinating. Like because we've written a lot about it. It takes up a significant portion of unit. It's in our learning program that's coming up. Sorry, I started thinking about what I needed to do for it later. But yeah, so like we have a whole section on caps. And a unit on caps, as to all of the caps that are in THORChain, and the lending cap is just another, safety mechanism. And so like lending is is no different in the THORChain ethos of safety and security. And this is my perspective, because there are caps everywhere that there needs to be a cap, or there could be a cap. There are caps, and the fact that 112% is a little over the cap, but I see that, and I saw a JP tweet not too long ago, and it really kind of it was a little light bulb that went off, and I didn't acknowledge this until he said something about it. Was that lending existed before, when everything was going up and it was all really exciting, and so it never, we never hit the caps because everything kept going up. And then at some point, Bitcoin, took a dive, and the market took a dive, and JP had made the statement that lending existed through this. It did not crash. It did not ruin the protocol. Everything about the network was completely according to the way that it was designed. And so I didn't even think about that, was that lending really did get tested not too long ago, and it performed as smoothly as possible. So I don't know what it would take for somebody who is very, very critical and against lending to go and continue to say, what kind of crash would it take for this hypothetical spiral to happen? I'm curious. I'm curious about what that would be. But we did see lending get tested, and it was fine. So I'm all about it, man. I'm in support of teaching it. We've got the mathematics behind it. We've got the caps in place. We've written the articles, and again, we've responded from our THORChain University account to folks who are very critical of it on crypto Twitter, and nobody's going to read it who doesn't want to read it, and they're convinced they're right, and they're allowed to feel that they're convinced they're right. So again, it comes down to who wants to learn and be open to it. But I really liked that JP had said that. It kind of dawned on me the test has occurred, and we did fine. We passed. So does that answer what you were after?
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of double click on it a little bit more, I think, a lot of people are looking at lending and they're talking about these different, doomsday scenarios of, if the price goes down to this price, then, the whole thing blows up. And I did also see that, post from JP talking about, that Rune survived, a pretty, it was, I forgot what the exact number was. I think it was a 25% correction in the price of Bitcoin, something like that. And, THORChain held up perfectly fine, and the lending did not blow up the protocol. So if you were to kind of look at the positives and negatives of it, what do you see? Let's say that some of these people have some level of correctness when it comes to the price of Rune going down, with the broader market. What do you see as kind of some of the pros and cons of having lending in place? Do you see, some hypothetical major risk? I know you're obviously in favor of lending, but if you try to see it from their side, what do you see as kind of those pros and cons on either the, downside? Because I've also seen some arguments that, the upside of crypto could potentially cause problems, because basically what lending is doing is hoping that Rune outperforms, Bitcoin and everything else. So if you kind of try to take the other side, how do you see things on both ends, upside and downside?
You stumped me. I've been on this. I've been in solid shoes on this side for so long. Um, I would have to see it, man. Like I don't know if the caps are in place. I I I I feel pretty confident in my position. I don't know, man. You've got me stumped. You're trying to get me to say something. I don't know. I,
Yeah, no,
I
I
mean,
mean,
like it's an unforeseen circumstance in my mind that this could happen. And like, look, I was there for Terra. Like, in fact, I was. We were like one day before signing a big contract to help develop Terra University, and that was the day before UST depegged. So that was something I couldn't see, right? So I'm not saying that I have all the answers, and I could be wrong, but as of right now, where I'm sitting, I see that THORChain has put in place um, parameters that Terra did not. So I don't know. The downside, um, ugh, the downside of lending. I don't know, man. I'm sorry.
no, you're good.
I
I
love
mean,
it.
I think it's important to ask, these questions and just kind of think about it.
Yeah,
Obviously, and one thing I love is that I've had a lot of conversations about lending and
I've
what
read
I think
all of
about it.
Tyler Reynolds's posts about it, so like I understand where it's coming from. So
Right.
I've read it. I just, but every time that I read something like that, I have a response. So to agree with it is tough.
Yeah, and I really haven't seen a great argument, to be fair. So I asked JP the same question when we had him on for a previous chain chatter, and
Yeah,
um,
I'm curious about what he said.
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is that really to any question about I would say the blow up risk of the protocol, there is a good answer. It's not like there's some,
Yeah,
shady answer, especially going back. And I was also pretty heavily, involved with Terra, and the whole like Anchor UST protocol.
yeah,
Um, and, when you would ask questions about the health of the protocol, you'd kind of get some shady answers. And then,
I remember.
obviously,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then you obviously have the huge meme of, steady lads deploying, Bitcoin to save the protocol.
Right, right, right.
And with THORChain, you don't have that like steady lads type of answer.
Not
One
at
thing
all.
I love to point people to the dashboard, the Nine Realms lending dashboard.
Yeah,
And you can see, the complete loan closure scenario and
yeah.
how all that math plays out. So, yeah, I threw you a question where I don't think there's an actually good answer. So, I actually think that's a good response that you
I wish Tyler Reynolds was in here. He would. I'm sure he would have an answer. Um,
have.
but yeah, like I've read all of the. I've been there. I've been in there for all the conversations. Sometimes I just sit and like a bird in a tree and watch. But I'm saying the answer to myself. And again, like JP, I'm sure did. He had a good answer for everything, and it's transparent. And there is an answer for it. So I'm yeah, you stumped me because I can't I can't pretend that the answer isn't the safety of it is present. So the downside is a speculation, I guess. Like if we were to have some sort of negative for lending, it is external speculation on the risks of like on the possible risks, the potential risks of how the visibility of it might affect the protocol. Not even the actual mechanism of it, but the perception of the mechanism. So that is, I think, as far as I can go for the risk. Like people don't want to mess with THORChain because of lending, despite it being a safe mechanism. So that to me would be the bad thing, I guess, is people don't want to touch it because of it, even though it's touchable.
Right. Yeah. And I think pointing people to the numbers and, like I said, that dashboard where it's like, okay, well, show me at what numbers this whole thing implodes like you
Yeah.
think it's going to. And, if they can't come out with concrete numbers, then I guess you can kind of pick which side you land on.
Yeah.
I'm curious to learn more about, obviously Maya-Protocol just celebrated their 1 year anniversary
Yeah.
of launching. And I know that you're kind of getting deep into the weeds on that as well. So how has that been going, and how are you guys,
Dude,
getting more involved?
I love Maya. Those guys are great. The devs are incredible. I really, really have the utmost respect for Maya Protocol. Like the integrity of that team is unmatched. I guess like and like if I always say Alex, it might be Alex, but either way, whenever that dude talks, it is of one mission. It is one focus, singular focus, and that is to take down sexes. And it is entirely like seamlessly aligned with THORChain in that like it promotes competition, like it is supporting competition because everybody is on the same side. So like I know that it was difficult. It was maybe difficult for people to accept and really buy into the friendly fork at the beginning. But man, like I once I talked, and I even Sam Yap, he said something about it not too long ago, but he's been with me for over I think 2 years now, and I brought him into the meeting with me when Maya approached me to help out with their education and moderation, and like I bought in, man. Like I could see that their line was in line with everything that we've been doing for so long. And dude, they've been knocking it out of the park. Like they work their butts off constantly. So, and everything about it, I like every time they make a decision or have the protocol suggest a new feature or a new chain or whatever, they're doing everything right. So I have nothing but great things to say about Maya Protocol. I love those guys. They're kicking butt, and I hope the best for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I obviously have been really diving deep into Maya and what they've been up to as well. Being that we ended up building a DEX UI for them. How
Yeah,
has THORChain University been kind of shaping up with Maya? Are you considering like a Maya university? Are you how are you kind of approaching that?
we've been early on. We helped them out with their academy, and we are in their Discord server, and so part of my a part of my team is in there as well, and so we're doing double time for both of those, both protocols networks. So yeah, well, we're educating about Maya as well, and we've been doing it for some time. It's just not. It's more so under the name of Maya Protocol itself. So we're happy to just basically have generated early on and get those guys started with kind of setting them up for success in how to kind of curate their educational output. So yeah, man, we've been working with them for a while. Maya University, I don't know if they want one, we can have it, but they kind of already have it with our help. So it exists, you just can't see it.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that there is a lot of synergy, in the space. I know that there were, when Maya came out, and I know that the kind of initial reaction by some people was, what's the deal with the fork? I mean, forks can be kind of dividing,
Yeah.
by their very name and nature. Um, so I do really enjoy seeing how,
It's a sport.
Thor chads, and yeah, it's us versus them. It's Dexes versus sexes, and I really like that sentiment. How do
That's literally what was that? It's sorry, I you
no, you're
just
good.
said a sentence in the learning program when I'm introducing Maya in the learning program. That's what I say. So yeah, nice.
Honestly, I might have stolen it from you because I probably read that. Um, so, how do you see Maya? And I know that they're working on, a THORChain aggregator, which would essentially, kind of create a bridge between the two protocols and allow, swaps to be seamless across them. And, as Maya adds new chains and as THORChain adds new chains, they become kind of seamless. How do you see the future of Maya-Protocol and THORChain, kind of synergistically growing as this kind of whole DEX space grows as well?
Dude, it's like the sum is greater than the parts, man. It's it's like boggling to think about where uh, like this was a dream. It's crazy that to see like from the beginning all of these things line up in such a way that all of them are coming to pass. They're all manifesting, and to have that happen on a technical level, it's only going to strengthen like um I work with a lot of analogies, but like that's going to make, if there were two spider webs, right, and they're kind of learning from each other and working together, but if they do this, when they do this, um if when then that's going to be one strong ass spider web, man. And I really do believe that like the DEX volume that those two together can do is going to be a number that's going to be hard to ignore uh, when the time comes. And it's going to be hard to ignore by not just us, but also like institutions outside of ourselves, beyond our echo chamber. And I think that's already starting to happen. Maybe behind closed doors with some places, but it's really exciting. I don't know how to say it otherwise, but I have a feeling that this is going to be a tour de force for years to come, and it's only going to get more exciting. That's what I think.
Yeah, and speaking of volumes and kind of the broader mission, um, how do you feel about it? Obviously THORChain's volume has, exponentially increased. It's been really incredible to watch how big of an impact streaming swaps have had.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's totally insane when you look at the charts of that volume increasing. How do you feel about, THORChain and the whole, Maya protocol, chain flip, THORChain, kind of aggregating them together and looking at the total volume? How do you feel about the current state of, dexes versus sexes in terms of trading volume, and where do you kind of see it going, let's say in the next 12 months and 5 years and beyond?
I can't say anything about chain flip. I don't know enough. I kind of exist in these two protocols, but I can say that like it's inevitable. If regulatory policies do not impede, and I think I just read something prior to hopping on here that we are going, like I don't know, everywhere is different, but the United States just backtracked on their veto or something, so they're actually going to be good to crypto now or whatever. I don't know, but I think that without oversight, without regulatory oversight impeding that possibility, that's only it's only natural for like it seems like a natural course of events to take place. I mean, I don't know how many people were really involved with the Robinhood GameStop thing, but that really, like, if I wasn't convinced before, man, like that, I don't know, that that was a like a line in the sand, I guess. And the more people I talk to, the more friends in life that I have, and they're bringing things up to me of their own volition, and asking me about, what where should I hold my assets and things like that, and what wallet should I use? And so there is an interest. There's a growing interest in using DEXs over sexes because of the lack of trust, and for good reason. So, and again, like, I think the eyes are becoming opened, and it's acceleratingly becoming opened by a lot of people. And the good news is we're in the right spot. We are in the full sense of the meme. We are early here for THORChain and Maya, because they provide exactly what is needed for the space to thrive. So I mean, the sky's the limit, man. And yes, the DEXs will take over. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and have long been a believer that, and like you were talking about with the GameStop stuff, and then also with, FTX and, Terra and, Celsius, BlockFi, like all the various blowups in the space have done nothing but, I think, put a notch in the belt of THORChain and this whole space.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's all basically free marketing for why this stuff is
100%.
so valuable and important. And I know that we're coming up on the hour, so I want to ask you a little bit about the Bifrost School and your Learn to Earn program that's coming up before we jump off. Can you tell us about what that is and how it's evolving?
Yeah. So we had originally planned to launch it in May or April, I guess, and then May, and I'm probably going to make an announcement that it's going to be a little bit into June at this point, just because we want to make sure everything is nice and smooth. So the Learn to Earn is going to be on a site. It's not up yet, but it's going to be on THORChain University. And it is going to be, hopefully, for all of you, freely accessible. And I've reached out to all of the THORChain and Maya ecosystem partners, partners, and they are providing rewards in various by various means, whether it's XDeFi wallet providing XDeFi coin or token, or Lens providing Lens, so it's good. It's a learning course that is designed to teach about THORChain. It's 5 courses. My boy Reed's in here. He has been a huge help for this particular project. So thank you, Reed. Thanks to Sam. Yeah, Jane, my boy Dave. So my team has been awesome in helping develop this program. And it is going to basically take you through 5 pretty substantial courses, starting with basic THORChain beginner knowledge. And then we move through the ecosystem, teaching you about the particular projects, spotlighting them, linking you out to where you might be able to use them. And then we go on to kind of, as we move forward through the course, it gets more technical, more under the hood, more deep dive into nodes and Asgard vaults and the threshold scheme and things like that. So it is a behemoth of a learning program. That's why we called it a school. And we are also going to offer created by Reed, an optional beginner course. So those who are brand new to crypto, they can take this course before they jump in and start getting the terminology. And we'll also have a glossary soon after launch. And So it's a school, man. We're gonna have a lot of educational material available, and much of that is going to be able to be moved through modules, written video, and then assessments that you will be able to earn ecosystem tokens for doing. And I hope that's appealing to people.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think learn to earn in general is another, we could do a whole podcast on why I think that's going to be a big thing, just in the world in general.
Yeah.
So I definitely love that idea and what you're doing there. Are there any links you want to leave the people with to learn more about THORChain University and all the stuff you guys are doing?
Yes. Give me one sec, and I will do that. So THORChain University. Let me get you. So for those who are listening, I'm going to post it in here. And this is our Discord. Feel free to hop in. I just posted it as a comment. And so that's our Discord. You guys, if anybody who's listening isn't already in there, please come in, say hi, and ask more. We also on our let me just throw our Twitter on there too. And there's that. And so, yeah, we are more than welcome. We operate around the clock 24/7. So anybody who wants to hop in our Discord, say hi, welcome you, and then we'll keep you updated on tabs about everything with the learning program and everything that's going on. And you'll have, access to all of the educational material we've been talking about this whole time. In a organized, structured fashion. So, and we can point you to it. You can ask any question about THORChain that you want in there. So, and we have the answers. So, yeah, by all means, we more than welcome. The more, the merrier.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And I'm sharing those links over to the Threadcast right now too for anyone that's
Thanks,
listening
dude.
over there. Yeah, of course. And yeah, thank you for joining us and sharing all this stuff. You've been, a true OG when it comes to THORChain in general, and then, absolutely when it comes to the education of everything related to the space. So thank you for all your, basically for your service to the
No
to the
problem.
broader mission.
Hey, it's for the good of the people.
Right.
Happy to
Absolutely.
do it, man.
All right, man. Well, thank you. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, dude. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll see you later.
Take care.
Peace.